Religious women are not afraid of leaving the church. They're not afraid of losing God. They're afraid of being alone. You think that if you leave, you'll lose everybody and maybe even yourself. How do I know about this? Why can I talk about this? Because that used to be me. Absolutely. Let's get into it today. This is going to be a video about what happens when you start to think for yourself and why the process of individuation feels like a crisis for women in the church. My name is Alicia Christine. I am a intuitive wellness guide, and essentially, I'm online helping women connect with their bodies, reconnect with their bodies, heal lifestyle inflammation, and to help you regain your vitality, whatever that looks like for you. So, at first, when I was exploring spirituality, I felt a bit rebellious. It was like, oh, what's that? I shouldn't be getting into that. Just because of things that people have said to me. But when I went through a physical crisis, those thoughts left my mind because I wasn't able to intellectualize what was going on with my mind, body, and spirit, what was really going on in my body. So I wasn't telling myself at that point, don't meditate, don't pray. I wasn't like theologizing all of that. It was just, these are somatic tools. This is what I need right now. This is what my body needs. It had nothing to do with religiosity. And um, I want to share this short story that really kind of catapulted me into spirituality, to be honest, because I was like at my wits' end. So I got a phone call from somebody who's in my family. And they were like, this was after I shared that I was diagnosed with with the autoimmune condition. And they were like, I saw you doing yoga when you were in Chicago, and you shouldn't be doing that. And God told them that the reason why I was having this physical struggle was because I was practicing yoga. I think that's actually very, very ridiculous and was very harmful to hear those words at that time of my life. Very unnecessary, very unloving. I love them nonetheless, but it was something that made me really think like, why would that individual even say that to me, especially at a time like this? I'm not going to get into all the theology around that. But what I will say is that it was their conditioning. It was their fear. It was the fear of the unknown. Um, And it was really programming about embodiment that they were putting onto me. You learned something about what embodiment practices are. You learned something about what spirituality is through maybe what others have heard or said, and you're projecting that on me. And that was a wild season. But when I began to really tap into my own spirituality, I really saw the difference between faith and spirituality and dogma and spirituality. And so I want to talk about things that we have been conditioned to believe as women who have been affiliated with church, religion, organized religion, all those things. We have associated belonging with obedience, meaning in order to belong in the circle, in the crew, in the faith, you have to obey. You have to obey what certain people say. You have to obey with the rules of the regime. You have to obey, obey, obey. When God gave us our own mind, body, and spirit, God gave us our own free will. But it's almost as like the church has stripped the autonomy and choosing away from us. And so when we start to individuate and say, this is who I am, this is what I want, these are the things that I like, this is what I want to do. Yeah, I want to practice yoga. And what? And what? And God's going to punish me and strike me dead because I'm practicing yoga. Like, it's ridiculous. But nonetheless, we have associated obedience and fear with belonging. If I don't fear, if I don't obey, think bad things are going to happen. And it's just not the case. It's just not true. But I understand that those are real feelings. We have associated safety with sameness. If we are the same, if we think the same, if we have the same thoughts and we have the same the same framework, the same worldview, we will be safe. That's another falsehood because sameness does not equate safety. It just does not. We can see how a lack of diversity has been crushing to our world that we're living in now, how sameness or trying to put people in a box, in the same box, has been destructive, how it is destructive for our bodies, how it's destructive for the growth of young people to put people in a space where you feel like you have to group think. And if you don't group think, then you're not safe. You're not in. You can't sit with us. And that's a very small way to think and a small way to live. And it's something that women of the church have struggled with. Women of faith, church girls, we have struggled with that. Um, we gotta have this certain aesthetic. We have to kind of believe in the same way. And spirituality doesn't ask that of us. Spirituality is a spectrum, it's fluid, it's it's actually the real relationship that people talk about in Christianity that you should have. Um, but it's not black and white. Something else that we've been conditioned to believe as women of faith, church girls, or former church girls, is that we have been conditioned to believe that staying small and agreeable will give us love. It will make us more lovable. People will love us. People will want us if we just stay small. And I could tell y'all stories and stories about what staying small has done, but had a part of some of the stories that I can share are about how it impacted my body on a physical level and how my throat chakra was all jacked up because I didn't speak my mind, didn't say my piece. I didn't cuss people out when they needed to be cussed out. It was always a suppressing and a be calm, be agreeable. There are times and seasons for being calm and agreeable. And then there are other times where you need to say it like it is, where you need to have righteous indignation. And it's okay to express that. And throughout my process, I will say that the church was a place that helped cultivate me. I'm thankful for it, but there are ways in which that it was harmful to me. And when I was in the thick of things and working in ministry, I didn't notice how tight my body was. I was leading worship and holding space for the congregants but I rarely had a chance to get my own breakthrough. I remember one time after someone close to me had passed away, I was praised for how strong I was and how I had the ability to still lead. And that struck me as strange at the time because I was really hurting inside and I really needed somebody to lead in my place. But instead, I was being praised for how much I was able to endure. And I was just like, no, I need some help. Can somebody help me? Can somebody help? Anyway, I made it through that season. I'm grateful. But sometimes we need help. Most of the time, we need help. All the time, we need help. Okay. All right. And it's okay to ask for that. Anyway, let me get back on track. Um, we have a lot of times women in the church, women of faith, we have this fear of always being watched and critiqued. And this is where the tightness came in my body, in my nervous system, being overcritical of myself because I had to look like a certain way. I had to be a certain way. I had to talk a certain way. I had to make sure I wasn't looking too pretty and I wasn't dressing too tight and I wasn't being a stumbling block. Always making space for other people. Always, when I say that, I mean always making space and anticipating someone else's issues that they would have with us. Instead of accepting ourselves, instead of really embracing the love that God freely gives us. Yeah, I'm gonna just let y'all think about that for a second. So I'm gonna hit y'all with a few things real quick, and I'm gonna get out of here. So the reason why I feel like a lot of women of faith struggle with individuation and separating and really going on a journey to really examine what they believe and why they believe it and what works for us, for you, is because there is a false sense of community that we think there's a sense of community we believe we will lose, but in reality, it's a false sense of community. I am grateful for the communities that are true, that are consistent, that are faithful. I am thankful. I needed that. I had that in a lot of spaces, but there are some ways that I did not have that, that it wasn't authentic. And in some instances, our love is tied to belief alignment. And if we don't have belief alignment, then that means you do not have community. So the reason why I was stagnant, really, and even not even sharing who I truly authentically was, because I was afraid of who's gonna love me. I want, I don't know if I struggle with the feeling of being alone, but it was like I'm not ready to lose some of the resources. I'm not ready to lose friends and for people to look at me a certain way and to not be associated with certain people, because there is a particular doctrine in Christianity that calls Christians to separate themselves from individuals who think differently, who are different, who may not align with the words of Paul or the words in the Bible. They don't see the Bible as inerrant. They don't see it as something that they have to. I could get into all of the different things, but I'm not. But you understand what I'm saying. And I believe that it's a falsehood that we can't love each other and we can't be in community with one another unless there is belief alignment. I don't want to live in that kind of space. I don't want to be in community with people who I have to think about everything the same way. There has to be shared values in my relationships, absolutely. But do I feel like we have to believe everything line by line, T by T? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And my ability to express what I believe and love, don't like or don't want, if that causes someone to separate or not love me or not rock with me, I gotta be okay with that. And you gotta be okay with that too. You gotta be okay with that. When you're ready, you'll begin to be more authentic because you'll no longer be afraid of who's gonna leave you based on what you believe. I realized that spirituality doesn't need supervision. I don't need somebody to supervise my spirituality. I don't need somebody to tell me what I should believe, what I should not believe. This journey to wholeness is windy. And the same God of the universe that guided me and loved me since I was in my mother's womb is with me today. And I can trust that spirit and I can trust myself. I can trust myself. You can trust yourself. You can trust yourself. I know people make you believe that you can't, but you can. All right. A few more things that I want to tap in with y'all. I want to reframe some things. Healing responds to safety, not submission. I know submission is a big word. Submit, submit, submit. But in order for you to really for your bones to thaw out, you have to realize that you have to make yourself your own body a safe space. Okay? You have to make your own body a safe space. You have to decide what safety feels like for you. Number two, belonging shouldn't cost you your body. Belonging to a community should not cost you your body, your ability to speak, your ability to feel free, your ability to do what you really want to do. Number three, spirituality can be relational, not hierarchical. I'm so over that. I really literally could share the stories that I have, and I will one day, potentially, about the hierarchy in spiritual spaces and how it is destructive and how you just gotta let that go when you're coming into spirituality and leaving dogma and leaving religion. You're going to have to embrace the fact that spirituality is relational. And it changes, knowing that changes your expectations of spiritual people and people who you would deem as leaders. And yeah. All right. So the last few things that I want to say is that if you're on a spiritual journey, you're trying to figure out your path right now, I don't want you to blame yourself. I don't want you to blame yourself for dis-ease that you may feel in your body, maybe tightness, maybe fear. I want you to begin to embrace yourself. I don't want you to berate yourself for questioning your faith, for questioning people, for questioning God. I want you to know that you didn't lose God because God cannot be lost. Okay? And you being on a spiritual path does not mean, excuse me, you are less than deserving of community. You still deserve community. You still deserve love. You are still lovable. And you don't have to bury and burn your faith down to come home to yourself. You get to keep what you need to keep. Your journey is yours. Embrace that it's going to look different, that your beliefs don't have to align with everybody. They're not going to align as we grow and mature and evolve. They're not always going to align. And that's perfectly okay. Listen, if you are in that in between space and you're not religious anymore, but you're not sure exactly who you are yet, I have created something gentle for that season. Two things. I write about spiritual evolution on my Substack. And two, I made a guide called Heal Your Heart and Manifest Wholeness, where I'm sharing shifts that I made to free my body from religiosity and to begin to embrace my spirituality. And it also comes with a guided meditation by yours truly, Alicia Christine, and you will find it valuable. Also, before you go, in the next video, I'm talking about what happens after you leave when the grief hits and the freedom does too. All right, love y'all. Talk to you later. Bye.